For my analysis of an Australian sport development assignment, I have chosen to examine Tasmanian and former Australian cricketer Ricky Ponting and his autobiography named Ponting at the Close of Play, released on the 21st of October 2013. This autobiography looks at Ponting's rise through the ranks of a local Tasmanian cricket team onto the heights of becoming Australia's leading Test run scorer and one-day cricketer, as well as the most successful Test cricket captain of all time. Sport development and delivery systems are the ground base of Australian sport. Fundamentally, they are about partaking in a sport and promoting the opportunities and benefits of participation. Participation grows from junior and youth sport, where the rules, regulations, and traditions of a sport become the foundation of sporting development. This is then heavily mixed into senior competitions and into, ultimately, elite and professional sport. In regards to Ponting's sporting development in his early age, he talks about being able to watch his father and uncle, former Test batsman Craig Campbell, play for the Mowbray Eagles at his local cricket field in Brooks High in Launceston. Seeing his uncle play for Australia and debut in England gave Ponting his first notion that playing Test cricket was a viable option for a 12-year-old living in Launceston. Ponting joined the Northern Tasmanian Cricket Association as one of the ground staff helping with the scoreboard during Sheffield Shield games. He was only paid $20 a day, but more importantly, he was contributing to state cricket for the very first time. This advantage from the scoreboard gave Ponting a bird's-eye view of the game, the warm-ups, the net sessions, and the small nuances a game of cricket requires. Later that year, in the 1987 to 1988 season, Ponting got his first start for Mowbray. Mowbray is a club part of the Tasmanian grade cricket, which refers to the graded cricket competitions played in Tasmania. Tasmanian grade competitions all fall under the administration of the Tasmanian Cricket Association. Tasmanian grade competitions are split up into three different sectors, which are known as the Southern, Northern, and Northwestern clubs, all competing against each other. Things started heating up for Ponting when he played for Mowbray in the Northern Under-13 Cricket Week, where he scored 4 separate hundreds in the space of 5 days, all undefeated. The Northern Tasmanian Cricket Week, now named the Vacation Week, is a full week of Tasmanian clubs participating in a round-robin, one game played each day, and the top 4 teams enter the playoffs on the Saturday and Sunday of the week. 2 weeks later, he was picked in Mowbray's team for the final in the Northern Under-16 Cricket Week, where he made another 100. This was enough to be selected in the Northern Tasmanian Cricket Association Under-16s training squad, as well as the Tasmanian Institute of Sport Under-19 squad. A year later, Ponting was signed by cricket merchandiser label Kookaburra, whom he has been with ever since. At age 15, Ponting was selected for the Australian Under-17s Championships, playing for Tasmania. Continuing his lifelong trend of playing in older competitions helped capitalise Ponting's growth as a cricketer, as it gave him a head start on technique and challenges. 6 months short of his 16th birthday, Ponting was included as one of 60 players in the Tasmanian Sheffield Shield winter training squad, maximising his potential and development at such an early age. He was then selected in the Australian Under-17 development squad following the 1990 to 1991 Under-17 Championships in Brisbane. The biggest move for Ponting came once he dropped out of school in grade 10. He was offered a scholarship from a group of cricket enthusiasts based in Launceston known as the Century Club to go and train at the Australian Institute of Sports Cricket Academy in Adelaide. This in turn led to the Australian Cricket Board, now known as Cricket Australia, to offer Ponting a place in the Australian Under-19 team. Ponting was then picked to be in his first Sheffield Shield match as the youngest ever to debut for the Tasmanian Tigers. The Sheffield Shield is a tournament in which Australian teams play each other over summer, ranging 3 to 4 months long. The Australian cricket team selects cricketers from the Sheffield Shield to play for Australia based primarily on statistics and form. To push further for a position in the highly sought-after Australian team, Ponting was awarded the opportunity to play for Australia A in a one-day series against Australia, England and Zimbabwe. By the year 1991, 23 graduates of the Australian Institute of Sports Cricket Academy had played Sheffield Shield cricket, including soon-to-be Test stars Shane Warne and Damien Martin. Flying to South Africa for a 13-man Australian Academy team began Ponting's transition into an Australian cricketer. This in turn is where he created bonds with future Test players such as Adam Gilchrist and Glenn McGrath. After a handful of successful games, he was then selected in the Australian one-day international squad, replacing Michael Slater, who was injured for the series against New Zealand. Later that year, Ponting was awarded a test spot, and scoring 96 on debut, his development through the ranks was complete. There are many different awards and records Ponting made. Here are Ponting's top 10 accomplishments, highlighted in the graph. He had an average of 51 over an 18-year career. He played in 168 tests, winning 100 of them, the best of any cricketer in history. He played in 3 winning World Cup teams, 5 Ashes series wins, and has the most Australian runs in both test and one-day formats, with the highest test score of 257. These accomplishments have been touted as some of the best records ever in Cricket Australia's history. Upon reflection of his autobiography, Ponting follows the traditional development outlined by Cricket Australia's usual male pathway of creating national cricketers. He began in a local state team, made his way into a form of national competition at an early age, and was then offered various chances to play in national teams and programs. He followed the correct development procedure with clear outlining of coaching development on his basic skills, for example, techniques on cover drives and sweeping. He also outlines clearly his transition from local park cricket to international cricket. Ponting's conversion from local cricket into international cricket was simplified, as he was able to correctly see the necessary steps that were in place for him along the way. Ponting followed the procedures in place for Cricket Australia's pathway aim, which is to ensure all players play to their full potential and enjoy cricket's lifelong journey. The systems in place at the moment, quite similar to those in Ponting's era, seem to be quite effective. As cricket is more or less a numbers game, key statistics such as average of runs per game in any competition can be seen by the hierarchy, and in turn earning the cricketer the chance to climb the rung into the next competition. For example, 100 in local cricket will be noticed by those in charge of the state cricket team, and 100 in state cricket will be noticed by those in charge of the national team, and so on. However, having followed cricket quite closely for a number of years now, this I already knew. What surprised me most was what the significance of the minor tournaments meant for Ponting, such as Mowbray's vacation week. After just 5 days, Ponting's career had heated up extraordinarily from nearly nothing. Ponting, at the close of play, recognises Ponting's development through local Tasmania all the way through into the Australian Test squad. Ponting delves deep into his progress through the ranks and comments in depth about particular mentors and challenges at each competition that created the player he became. The system set in place worked well for Ponting, as his rise to the top came about with notable steps along the way, such as starting out at a local club in Mowbray, then becoming a Sheffield Shield player, and ultimately an Australian cricketer. He owes all of his successes at an international and state level to the development he received and the pathway set about in place from Cricket Australia. Ponting deliberates much of his success in due to the love of the game, to the coaches who pushed him through growing up, and the local cricket in Mowbray where he learned his values in cricket and life.